things that I see a lot is that they apologize for their feelings and that they don't take care of themselves. And so I always hope that I get that across when I'm meeting with any of them, that they are important and they are special and they are valued.
I
And
love that.
I hope as we work together that they feel that and they start to believe that themselves. Sometimes you need somebody to believe it for you first, and then just to
100%.
keep supporting you in that. And then hopefully, eventually, they'll start believing it themselves.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jennifer.
And I'm Ashley, and literally, I'm going to start it off the way I said I would. We have a guest who does all the incredible things. I can't even personally name them all because she's that amazing. So, what we will do is we will have her introduce herself and tell us a little bit about what she does and what we're going to talk about today. So, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, thank you. I am Kristin Greathouse. I am the wife of a first responder. I am the daughter of a first responder. My dad's a firefighter. My husband is a police officer. I am a nurse, and I am actually a board certified nurse coach. So
You have
I
it
kind of do
all.
a whole lot of
I'm
things.
I wasn't kidding. I started us with a banger. We were just talking about all the things about this podcast, and then here I am throwing a curveball 0.5 seconds in. This whole dynamic of dad being a firefighter, but married to a police officer. That wouldn't have worked out in my house. My dad said, "You are not allowed to date those firefighters." So I'm impressed how you snuck that one in there.
It's funny. So, my husband and I grew up together. He's just a couple years older than me. I've known him since I was a baby, and we never dated in high school or anything like that. It wasn't until we were much older, but he knew my dad, and he was always very respectful of my dad. My dad, I think, was impressed by that, just of this young kid who was,
Mm.
very respectful and what, yes, yes,
Yeah.
right? Yes, should have known it was going to lead to something. But they have a great time joking around
Mhm.
about firefighters and cops. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
fun
yeah.
time when we get together.
Well, it sounds like you've made a bridge between firefighting and policing, and I really want to talk about this bridge you have with being a licensed nurse and coaching. So, can you tell us just a little bit about, I guess maybe back up and tell us a little bit what nurse coaching is, and then it kind of explain your trajectory in terms of how it was something that interests you?
Absolutely. Nurse coaching is an actual recognized board certification for nurses. So you do have to be a registered nurse, an RN, which I am. So I got my ADN, which is my associate degree in nursing, and then I got my BSN. I'm currently in school for my DNP, which is a doctorate of nurse practitioner. So I have about
What?
3 more years. I will make my husband call me
Incredible.
doctor.
Of course, Dr. Greathouse. Uh-huh.
Doctor, yes. I got into nurse coaching. I actually saw it was a fluke. I saw it as an ad on social media somewhere and it piqued my interest and I looked into it, but it wasn't until well over a year later that I actually signed up for it. The certification is nurse coach, but that doesn't mean that I coach nurses. It just means that I am a nurse and I am also a certified life coach. I can coach anyone about anything. The beauty is a lot of people will come to nurse coaches because we have that clinical background and experience in nursing. And so we do have a little bit of a step up on things when it comes to healthy things,
Right.
working out, eating healthy. Not that I'm going to give someone a healthy eating plan because I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm not going to give somebody a workout plan because I'm not a trainer, but I can help people to figure out the best things for them. Like I said, I found it on social media. I finally went through the program. I got the board certification. I kind of use it all the time. Some very intentional times, and then other times it just kind of comes out when I'm talking to somebody, and it's like, oh, well, tell me more about that. And so,
Honestly, that's so incredible. And that was going through my brain too. I'm like, it's something that I feel like can be used in a lot of different aspects of your life, which
mhm,
I find incredibly
absolutely.
powerful. And so I love how you were just like, yeah, it kind of just comes out because I mean, how does it not? Right? Like, and I really, really love that. We do want to ask what it's like for you though to also be married to a first responder and how it's kind of shaped like your life and your mindset on things.
Lord, how much time do you have?
She said we need 13 episodes. No.
Yeah, yes. Well, first of all, I will say I love my husband and I actually like him. We are best friends. So I have a little bit of different perspective. Like I said, I knew my husband growing up. So I knew him before he was a first responder. Although I think everyone always knew that he was going to become a police officer when he, grew up and became an adult. But we were only ever friends back in high school and didn't start dating until he had been on the job for several years. So even though I knew him, I didn't get to know him well until we started dating. And like I said, he had already been an officer for several years at that point. I should say, to answer your question, I am extremely proud to be married to a police officer. He's been in law enforcement for 26 years, I think now. He's been promoted several times. He's accomplished so many things in his career. I mean, I couldn't even list them all, but I'm extremely proud to be married to an officer. But that said, I say we're best friends, and we are, but it's taken a lot of time to get where we are. I really always say if there's an emergency, I want him to be there because he's very calm, he's very steady in chaotic situations. I love that about him because I am not always calm and steady in those situations. Early on in our relationship, I would say he was probably very hyper vigilant, as many officers are. Always had to sit with his back against the wall in a restaurant, always carried his gun with him, whether he was on duty or not. He was always kind of overly concerned, I would say, about where the kids were, what they were doing, who they were with. His favorite saying was always, nothing good happens past midnight, so nobody needs to be out late. And so a lot of times back then, I had to be very mindful of what I said to him because often I never really knew what was going to set him off necessarily and really upset him. I would say time, his age, therapy, and I would say especially EMDR have really mellowed him tremendously. I don't really worry about setting him off anymore because he doesn't necessarily get as upset as he used to. We live on a farm. We're in the country and it's really our sanctuary. And I think ever since we've had this place, it's just calming to turn into my driveway and drive up to my house and know that,
That's awesome.
we're here and it's very peaceful out here. I think that's really shaped a lot about our marriage and, our mindset and that kind of thing. I hope that I answered your question.
You did. And I mean, I think that we're seeing more and more research just about being in nature is such a positive thing, and how special that, your house is surrounded by that, and that you guys have that
Absolutely.
kind of peace. That's beautiful. And I appreciate you kind of sharing that. It's been a journey and what marriages are. We work together and feeling that kind of shift in work. And I think that that's beautiful. With the coaching and you thinking about life coach, and I do think that there's probably some research about nurses and police officers being together, right? Like that's a thing,
I'm
isn't it?
sure there
Wait.
is. Yes.
Pause. Can we just go to cue all the reels that I watch of like nurses running and like the police officers going after them? I have to crack up every time. Every time.
I love that. Yes, it's so true. And firefighters, to be honest,
Oh,
I know
totally.
probably
No,
just as
totally.
many nurses with firefighters as they are with police
Right.
officers.
What do you feel like in terms of like first responder families and how something distinct like coaching is helpful?
I love to give the distinction that coaching is different from counseling or from therapy. Counseling and therapy really helps people to work on the past, the things that they've been through, the things that they maybe can't get past, or the things they're just, upset about. I mean, you guys know this is what you do every day. With coaching, we're looking at the future. We are figuring out where a person is and where they want to go and how to fill the gap, how to get to that place, but do it on their terms. Especially with first responder families, a lot of the coaching I've done with first responder families has been with spouses, and it's in more of a group setting. First, everyone is just getting to know each other and they're not really sure what to say. And then, by the end of it, we're all helping each other out. Like, oh my gosh, my husband does that too. Or, oh my gosh, my kids went through that same thing. There's so many similarities. And a lot of times in those group settings, I'm learning from them because they have all been through a lot of the similar situations, especially kind of the emotional roller coasters that you
Oh,
can
yeah.
go on with the first responders and the situations that they've been in and the things they've seen. And then, how the families are the support for them, but also they see them a lot of times at their worst. And so There's definitely a counseling and a therapy side of that that is absolutely necessary. Coaching kind of comes in after you've dealt with those things in the past and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, well, now what?
Right.
Where do
Yeah.
we go? What do we do? How do we move forward? And so I love that part of it because a lot of people get concerned. They'll go through these emotional things. A lot of them will go through EMDR and they'll come out and they feel so much better. And then there is an eventual, like you all say, with EMDR, you're going to start feeling the feelings that you hadn't been feeling. And a lot of times that gets to be very overwhelming. And so coaching can come in and say, okay, these are the things that we can work on to help you get through those feelings. And I love that coaching is future focused because it's very important to fix the things in the past, but it's also important to start looking to the future.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that distinction. And I think it's a great way too to think about people that want to set goals and things like that, especially if we have addressed some things in the past. I think with some of my clients, it gets to a place like, you're doing really great. Well, what about this? What about this? And they're all things in the future where I think really coaching would be a great place to kind of step in and say, hey, like these are the plans and the things that we want to work towards.
Absolutely. I think what's really powerful about our podcast, we have so many people that listen. And so like the cool thing is hopefully I don't know how many people know about coaching, right? Like I really
Mhm.
don't. And so this is why we were so excited to have you on because we want our first responders and their families to realize there's a lot out there. Like there are all these other resources. And so if someone is listening and they're still trying to learn what is this about, could you give us a little rundown of what a typical like coaching session may look like with a client and a first responder family?
Absolutely. Coaching sessions are pretty much the same no matter who the client is. Now, that said, we can definitely tailor things to different people in different situations. A session would start out with a greeting like, "Hey, I'm glad you're here." And one of the first things we do is we go through agreements. So we do agreements instead of expectations because expectations are
Mm.
one-sided and especially as an adult myself, if someone looks at me and says, I expect you to blah, 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 it's probably not going to be something I want to do. But if we go over, certain things and we just say, can we agree on these things? And the agreements are like we're in a safe and a confidential space, that the client is completely in control of the depth of conversation. I invite them to play full out or just to give it their all, even if all they have to give is 30% because they're exhausted from work or whatever. Like, just give as much as you can. That they have radical self responsibility, like the things that come up, the thoughts they have, the feelings they have, that they accept those and try not to fight them because we can work with them instead of trying to push them away. And then giving each other feedback. I love feedback at the end of my sessions just to say, did we talk about what you wanted to talk about? Do you feel good about this? What do we want to do differently? So those are the first things we do. We talk about any homework they may have had from a previous session. They had a previous session if it's not an initial session. We talk about a goal that they set at their last session. Did they work towards it? Did they actually do what they said they were going to do? And if they didn't, that's fine. Let's just talk about why you didn't. Maybe it wasn't the right goal for you right now. I've had people get on sessions with me and say, you're going to be so mad at me. I didn't do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I would never be mad at you. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to
Right.
support you. One of the first things I will say to start out a session is, what do you want to focus on today? Or out of all the areas in your life, what feels like it could use the most support? And
Mm.
then we just talk. We just have a conversation. I ask questions. They dig deep and they get brutally honest. And I think a lot of times they surprise themselves with some of the things that they come up with. But typically they have an overall goal that they want to achieve, and it may take several sessions of small goals each time to work their way up to that goal. We get there, and the goal typically changes every week, especially if
Yeah.
they're working on it and they achieve that goal. Let's set the next one and let's keep moving forward. So
I love that.
Oh, I mean, that's amazing. And I clearly know that you're working with first responders when you're saying agreements and not expectations, because we know a first responder will be quick to tell you what they're not going to do rather than what they're going
right.
to do. So I think that that's amazing. You kind of mentioned this earlier, of like how much coaching shows up just in day-to-day life. And so I was just kind of
Mhm.
curious, if you don't mind sharing, this might be a little personal, but where coaching has shown up maybe at home, especially with a first responder as a spouse?
At home, my nursing background, I've worked in med surg and, hospital medicine, and I've also worked in psych. My nursing psych background has helped tremendously at home, not just with my husband, although that, of course, is
I
it's
mean, hey, it
inevitable.
helps. Okay, it
It
helps.
helps. It does in the coaching. But I think I've learned not to take things personally,
Mm,
especially if he's had a really hard day at work and he comes home and,
gosh, what a
I
great
just
point.
know he's looking for a fight, not necessarily with me, but he just needs to get things off of his chest. And a lot of times it might come off as anger and frustration towards me, but I know it's not. It wasn't, I didn't start it, and he just needs to get it off. Truly try to listen to where he's coming from. And I have to remember, he has his own experiences and his own perceptions. And, again, it's not my fault. That's not necessarily. Sometimes I'm sure I do things to upset him, but
Well,
but
what a great, but I feel like that right there, like, will resonate with so many spouses of first responders because we talk a lot from the clinical side of things. We talk a lot about how PTSD, depression, anxiety, right? Like, it can manifest in different ways. And one of the biggest ways for our first responders is anger, right? Like
Mm,
that irritability, that quick diffuse, walking on eggshells. Man, I've heard it all, right? Like, I felt it as a child
yes.
of a first responder. It just is going to resonate with so many people because it does feel like a lot of the times they are looking for that fight and it's really, really hard, I think, as a spouse, but also as a child. I know I interpreted a lot of my dad's stuff of, oh my gosh, he doesn't really, it's me. Like, my dad's mad
Hmm.
at me. I
Hmm.
must be the reason that he's so unhappy. I must be the reason that he's angry. And I think spouses probably hold that even to a higher degree, right? And
Absolutely.
I do see that in relationships a lot, that it falls apart because of that. So I think that's such a great point, and I love that coaching has done that for you.
Absolutely. A lot of times I used to internalize everything that he would say, everything he would do. But especially after, going through a conference for mental health for
Yeah.
first responders, hearing their stories and just hearing
Mm-hmm.
exactly the things that they've been through, the things that they've seen. I have no idea. I haven't been through those things, so I don't know how I would respond. It's so easy to say, I would never and I would
Right.
always, but if you haven't been there, you don't know. And
Yeah.
so I feel very fortunate to have gone to that conference and
Yeah.
hear all of those stories and experience all those things, because I think that has helped to shape me, kind of make me a little bit softer with him and not be so ready to argue back too.
That is so fair. I'm going to get myself in trouble here because we have this very beautiful question sheet. And of course, I'm the troublemaker and have to go off of it for a second here. So
Sure.
we edit, everybody, we edit. So at any point you're like, no, we don't want, I don't want to talk about this. I can always edit it out. But I don't want to pass up on the opportunity to ask, especially because we work so heavily with this podcast on like children of first responders and kind of honing in on that aspect a little bit of it. And Jennifer and I have talked at length about how we just feel like children of first responders are so resilient, right?
Mm.
And I mean, it is a beautiful thing. And here we are again with another child of a first responder who's kicking ass in the world, and doing all these incredible things. And so I just kind of wanted to ask, what was your experience like growing up in a first responder family with a dad as a firefighter? And do you feel like that has impacted your ability? Like, did it come from childhood and maybe it didn't, but to like thrive and to be a life coach and to do all these incredible things to help people?
I honestly think it probably did. I don't think I knew that early on. My dad was a firefighter, so he worked 24 hours on and 48 hours off, and he almost always had a second job because
That second
the,
job of firefighters.
And
firefighters
firefighters
What
always got
almost
is
that
that? I'm
second.
like,
always,
what is,
I
I want
don't
3 days off
know.
and I'm gonna be out. I'm going to the
I'm
Bahama
not
retreat.
gonna
I don't
go
know. Like,
be doing
Right.
contracting work. Yep. Hmm.
Yes, yes. I don't know, but he almost always had a second job. And so a lot of times he wasn't home. He would get off work and maybe he would come home, he would get off at 7 a.m. after a 24-hour shift. He would come home, he would shower, and he would be gone again. And so my mom, she often said she felt like a single mom because, he was working and he was supporting the family. And I always knew when he was there, he was there, and he was attentive and loving, and he was this amazing dad. He was also gone a lot, and there were times that he would come home and he would just be very quiet, and introspective, and I was the same way, like, what did I do? Like, he doesn't really want to talk to me. And I think as a small child, you don't know the things that you don't know. And so
Right.
you don't have that adult perspective to be able to say,
Yep.
this was something that happened that had nothing to do with me. Now, like I said, after hearing those stories and knowing the things that my dad has seen over, I mean, he had an almost 40-year career
Oh,
in
wow.
the fire service. So, what did he see? What did he have to do? The things I have a much deeper respect for him now as an adult and knowing now some of the things that he's experienced. So,
Yeah. I appreciate you going rogue there, Ashley, and asking that
I do
question.
too.
Sorry.
In first responder families, I mean, there's a cause in those families. Like, obviously your dad serving on the fire department. Is that any type that kind of led you into nursing in terms of like a career path? Like, was it important for you to do something like that?
I think probably my mom was a nurse
Hmm.
for,
Oh,
again, almost 40 years. They both had these, I call them like high stress
Hmm.
environment jobs. I didn't go to nursing school until I was 40. I was old. I
okay.
was one of the
First
oldest
off,
ones in my class.
I was gonna
you
say.
okay. People won't see the video, but she's flawless, and I'm over here like, oh well, what? Okay, all
No,
right, hold up.
no. Not even. But thank
So
you.
thanks.
I'll tell you what really inspired me. So I wanted to be a nurse like straight out of high school when I first went to college. And then my life just took a different path and I
Right.
decided that nursing was not for me at the time. And then once my son graduated high school, I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. And
Yeah.
so I did. But one of the other big reasons that I wanted to do it was that conference, that mental health conference for first responders. And I
Mm.
saw the need. I knew I wanted to get my nurse practitioner and I knew it would take a long time. I wanted to be able to do a lot of what you all do with the psychotherapy aspect, but then I also wanted to be able to have that medication side where if
Hmm.
somebody needs to be prescribed something, I have that ability to. So I
Yeah.
kind of wanted that dual ability. But I think it was probably the combination of my dad, my mom, just from my childhood, and then, my husband and my experiences with first responders and mental health that
Yeah.
really kind of led me on the path I'm on.
That's beautiful. And I just, I love serving those that serve. And I just hear that in you as well. Like recognizing that these people are sacrificing so much and wanting to be there and being able to help them. Obviously, protect your clients' privacies, but is there anything that you see in terms of patterns or themes that show up with nurse coaching with first responders, or like be it spouses or the first responders, or if you work with kids of first responders? Is there something that you kind of like, I see a lot of?
Yeah, actually, it's one of the things that we kind of talk about early on in the sessions, like an agreements thing, especially in a group session. But with a lot of first responder spouses, first of all, they apologize. They just profusely apologize. Like they may say something negative about their husband or the job, and they're like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I love to address that head on and just be like, you are a person and you have your own opinions and ideas and thoughts and feelings, and they are valid.
Hmm.
So if that's how you feel, please don't apologize to me because I'm glad that you're being true and honest and expressing yourself. But that's definitely one of the things I see. Another thing I see is they often put themselves to the back burner, and especially their spouse and their kids come first.
Hmm.
That's the priority.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them feel like they've lost themselves because they haven't taken care of themselves and they haven't. I say self care, and it's such a buzzword. It's not one of my favorite. I mean, when I say self care, I just mean not arguing when someone starts an argument with you, just to be able to stop, take a deep breath, and say, you know what, I'm not going to do this. Or to go outside and get some sun on your face and walk around for a few minutes, to do some deep breathing exercises, to roll your shoulders and move around, just little self-care like that. I mean, if you want to go to the spa, I'm all for it. 100% there, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But those are the big things that I see a lot, is that they apologize for their feelings and that they don't take care of themselves. And so I always hope that I get that across when I'm meeting with any of them, that they are important and they are special and they are valued
I
And
love that.
I hope as we work together that they feel that and they start to believe that themselves. Sometimes you need somebody to believe it for you first, and then just to
100%.
keep supporting you in that, and then hopefully eventually they'll start believing it themselves.
I
Mhm.
feel like that's one of the hardest things for a lot of people to conquer, right? Is just this notion of imposter syndrome and learning how to love yourself, that self-confidence. It's just not always easy. And I
Hmm.
think too, my mind's going at 100 right now. And I just think too about how if our partner is in the first responder world, sometimes we can feel inadequate.
Hmm.
Right? And like that's not true. Our jobs are just as important and we're doing just as much. You know what I mean? But in a different way. I can see that with our spouses that may be something very, very hard sometimes for people to kind of balance. But either way, that's extremely powerful. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope a lot of our spouses are listening to this one because
Well,
I
and
think
I
it sits with them.
definitely
So
have
too.
seen that too in terms of, well, spouse's job being stressful. And, I don't think it's intentional, but the first responder minimizing it was like, well, I mean, did you put out a
Mm,
burning building? And yet having a crappy boss and having to work overtime and, those things are stressful, even though
Mm.
maybe it's not life or death at times.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So we're kind of on the topic. I know self-care is a very big word, sometimes overused. Sometimes you're like, yeah, self-care. And I think we're all really good at saying do self-care and maybe struggling to do it ourselves still, right? Like there's some truth
Hmm.
to that. From your perspective, your different careers and everything that you do you have anything that tool-wise or just recommendations that you're like, hey, yeah, this is a good way to do some self-care?
So some of the things I mentioned before, I mean, breathing techniques are one of the quickest and easiest things that people can do. And they're all different kinds. One of my favorite is tactical breathing, which, or box breathing. I think a lot of people know, but that's one of my absolute favorites. Often what I find myself doing is just stopping and taking 3 to 5 deep breaths and counting, maybe 8 seconds in and 10 seconds out. I mean, just stopping and recognizing that my brain is starting to go. I think doing body scans too, because
Yeah.
when you're starting to feel feelings, it's a physical feeling in your body, right? So when you're starting to feel anger, feeling how does that feel in your body? Does your heart start racing? Do you start breathing faster? Does your face turn red? Do you feel your muscles tightening up? Doing body scans to see how you're doing throughout the day. I love progressive muscle relaxations, tightening certain muscle groups and then
Yeah.
intentionally releasing that tension. Like I mentioned earlier, like rolling your shoulders, rolling your neck, getting up and walking around, moving from one room just to a different room to get a different perspective. Those are all really simple self-care things that people can do. Journaling is a good one if you have time, getting your thoughts out. A lot of people I've talked to would rather do a video journal. Like they just want to turn on the camera and start talking to it because a lot of times they get it out better verbally than writing it down. So
So
that's
cool.
kind of a fun thing. And then you can delete the video and no one ever has to see it, but you've at least got it out there. So there's the calling a friend to or
Yeah.
family member just to chat or laugh or just anything. I think all of those are really important and a lot of them are really simple and you can do them on your own. So,
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that
yeah.
was so well done. And there's some new things that I learned. I'm like, oh
I
my,
love that video one.
yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. I got to bring this to my office right
Oh,
now. Deep breathing, right? So important.
mhm.
We know what it does for the body, but yet when I present it to my first responders, they look at me cross-eyed like I'm on there. Ashley, I'm not into your hippy dippy stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, I love how you put it. Tactical breathing. They do breath work all the time,
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
do.
especially when it comes to like the range and stuff.
Hmm.
They do it.
They do.
Putting it that way is such a beautiful way for our first responders to be like, oh, hold up here. Maybe they're
Mhm.
onto something, right? So I
Right.
appreciate you so much kind of redefining that.
Oh.
And also, hopefully my people are listening to be like, all right, fine, we'll give her some grace because
You're
Right?
not
She
the only
used the
ones
word
preaching it.
tactical, so
yeah.
maybe there's something masculine about
All of a
it,
sudden
and
they'll come back to
right?
me and be like, I listened to this episode and so now I'm doing my tactical breathing. I'm gonna be like, yes, what I've told you to do for 3 years now. Great. I'm glad that's
Right.
what did it.
Good job. Strong
Uh,
work,
Yeah,
right?
uh,
Give
absolutely.
him some
Absolutely.
attaboy. I also do that with my husband. He loves it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll encourage sometimes though parents too, if a kid's having a moment that's upset, like,
Oh
even if
yeah.
they skin a knee or something like that, just that you start breathing because you get
Hmm.
that mirroring happening sometimes with your kiddos. So again, the more
Absolutely.
that we can practice it, the more our kids get to learn those kind of skills as well, which is,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, and I think when we recognize our own feelings, and especially if we're getting angry with our child has done something, and then they get upset and they start to cry. I mean, I'm sure my parents said it to me, I'll give you something to cry
I was
about,
just thinking in my head, what are you crying? Do you want a reason to cry?
Right, right. Instead of just let them cry, let them get it out. And actually, you can tell your first responders this too. It's good to cry if that's what you
Uh-huh.
feel like you
Mhm.
need to do.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
surprise.
That's another
Preach.
way I should
Preach.
say about self-care is if you need to cry, then cry.
Let it out.
Oh, and I will say another good one to get a pillow. I mean, if you're out in the country, you can just do it on your own. But a lot of times, get a pillow, put it over your mouth, and just scream as loud as you can. Just sometimes you just need to scream.
Just need to
And
scream.
you do, and it
I
feels better
love
when you
it.
get it out.
It does. That is a super healthy thing to do for sure. If somebody is interested in coaching, like what does that look like? I mean, obviously I want them to reach out to you, but like how do you direct people if that's something that they're interested in?
So I can give you my email address, and people are
Yes.
more than welcome to reach out to me, email me. I don't have a website, I don't have a Facebook page. A lot of my coaching that I'm doing right now, I'm working on a pilot program at the hospital where I work,
Oh,
and I'm doing a
awesome.
lot of nurse coaching there.
Incredible.
So it's really word of mouth, but I'm happy to give my email address. I don't know if you want me to give it on here or if you
We'll
want to
put
put
it
it
in
in
the
the show
show
notes
notes.
Yeah, I
or,
was
okay,
gonna say
sure.
show notes and like we will be introducing you and we can put it on there as well if you're open to our socials.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, please. I'd love to help. Especially now
Yeah.
that I've found this little niche, then I really want to help as many people as I can. So,
Well, and I think it's really powerful. I do think that our first responders and our nurses and our therapists are really good at helping others, but it can be
mm,
hard sometimes for us to help ourselves. And I think it's really powerful when we can make an appointment that's about us, you know? And
mm,
so I think about that sometimes when maybe I am struggling. There's just one thing I want to do, and I just can't seem to do it for myself. And it's so frustrating, and I get so upset about it. And again,
mm,
if like knowing that coaching's there, it's there to help with that because it
mhm.
can be hard to make a lifestyle change or whatever it is that somebody wants to do. And I think just kind of sometimes putting our time and energy into just meeting about ourselves is really powerful.
I like to tell people I am your biggest cheerleader. Whatever you want to do, I am here for it as long as it's moral and ethical
Illegal.
and legal. And there there are
Right.
some limitations to what I will support you in, but
Right.
for the most part, the sky's the limit. I want everyone to achieve their goals. I mean, why not? Life is short, and if there's things that we want to do, let's do them and enjoy as much as we can. So
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that is incredible. I feel like that was the best way to kind of put the exclamation point on this incredible episode because it is also true. I hope, well, I don't hope, I know that people will listen to this. I think it'll be new for a lot of people, and I'm so pumped for
Mhm.
that. We
Oh,
need more
good.
resources. And Kristin, you are the best person for us to come to with it. And we are so incredibly
Yes.
grateful that you were willing to even be on today.
Yes,
oh,
thank
thank you all so
you.
much for having me. This has been a blast, and I am just honored to be here. And I just hope I've helped out your listeners, even just one. It would be great to know.
I know
Absolutely.
it's more than one, Kristen, for sure. And I'm so glad that you got to come on.
Thank you. Me too.
Absolutely. All right, you guys. Well, we kind of know how this goes. I always end it the same way because it's the best way, but just never forget that when the call hits home, Jennifer and I are here for you, and we look forward to that next episode. All
Bye.
right,
Thank
bye.
you.